So you remember that planet we were talking about last time called Sotha with the Pharos beacon on it?
Mm-hmm.
And remember Empire? We're going to get more detail about that today on this episode of Ultra Morons with me, your host, Lane, as usual, joined with
Connor back here.
back here again. So, what do you just remember as being like the lighthouse and beacon? What else do you remember from it?
Well, I remember basically it was the way that they could kind of anybody in the warp could navigate to there, right? It was kind of like a North Star almost of
Mm-hmm.
when it was turned on. I don't know if it's turned on, if it's just on in general, but
Yeah, it's alien
yeah.
technology. They turned on, quote unquote, that yes, let them because Astronomicon is hidden through the warp storm, and they use it as a guiding star, basically, and it highlights places you can go and teleport.
Yeah.
Yes, but something terrible is going to happen.
Mm.
This kid, what's his name there? Obadeiis, feels in his mind. He has this really bad feeling that something bad is going to happen, and he doesn't know why, but he just feels it. And he is working at Sotha, and he spent a long time around the machine, so he knows what it is. But it's just like this anxiety he has, and then people like he tells people like, "I just feel something bad's gonna happen." And they investigate him, and even a librarian reads his mind, being like, maybe he's like having warp thoughts.
Mm.
And they said, no, actually, no warp thoughts here.
Hmm.
He just has regular anxiety, I guess. So,
Interesting.
but don't worry, we'll burn that fear out of him when he becomes a space marine. So
Hmm.
he's this kid is an adept, I guess is what they're called. Called adepts, I think so. Basically, oh no, aspirant, I think is what it's called. Is when you take these kids, you turn them into space marines, but like they're like the in between phase where they're not quite space marine yet, but they're doing the training.
Okay.
So he is one of them, and they said, "Don't worry, that'll go away when you get the new organs and the psycho training and all that."
Okay. So he's just a regular human right
Yes,
now.
mostly regular human. Whenever we do a Space Marine like deep dive episode, we'll get into that because like they don't put in all the organs at once;
Mm.
they kind of do them over time.
Mm.
So this kid might have like I don't know, maybe like a new eye organ, maybe, or like he has the Lairman organ, or he has the Preomnor, which is like the stomach that lets you learn by eating things. Like I think we talked about it a while ago with Sanguinius or Fulgrim or one of them. But basically, when you eat somebody's like brains, you can like gain their memories,
Yes. Okay.
and that's just basically an organ. Some of them it doesn't work in, but some of them it's very potent in. I think Blood Angels is really strong in them.
Mm.
I don't know if that's what makes him have the vampire thing, but
Mm.
anyways,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So he might have a couple organs. So he's like almost Space Marine level, but not quite.
Got it.
So yes, last time we left off, that we talked about the Unremembered Empire book slash Imperium Secundus, and Sanguinius is now emperor or second emperor, and Gilliman is the lawmaker, kind of the warden, and the lion is the kind of the sword of the empire. But the lion right now has left, and also they were hunting down Curze because he was causing a lot of problems. But yeah, so the lion left, and he doesn't tell him where he's going because he's so secretive.
Mm-hmm.
And also, last time we heard too is that Curze does the thing in the church, and he kind of escapes in the night. Or no, he does something, and then he escapes into the night. Whatever, doesn't matter. Listen to the last episode if you want to know all of it. We'll skip over this part anyways. So, going back to Pharos. There is a guy who's taking care of Pharos right now who's called Dantioch, and we talked about him in the last episode. This is kind of what he looks like. He's an Iron Warrior, and the Iron Warriors, you might be thinking, wait, aren't those bad guys? Yes. Well, not bad guys. Are those traitors? Yes. They are, but Dantioch doesn't know that because he's been sitting on this planet for so long doing this job that he's still loyal,
Mm.
So
Right.
he's been sitting there doing his work. And he has been around it for a long time, and he doesn't really know how the machine works, but he has a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I pull this lever and then this happens, but I don't really know the mechanism because it's alien technology. And he is, like talked about last episode, told Gilliman, I found this machine that can do this. Look, I can like teleport and stuff. So, but he actually doesn't mind doing it. Honestly, he doesn't have that fear like Obadeiis has. He kind of has like he almost kind of philosopher in a way. He just this thing is so awe inspiring. Like this giant mountain machine made possibly millions of years ago that can do these unbelievable things. Like he makes him think about like the universe in a totally different way. And he kind of makes him think about, the fortresses of his home world, and he kind of gets he starts thinking, which is Iron Warriors don't usually do that. They usually just kind of smash things to pieces with hammers.
Yeah.
And the book says it is a forcing of empathy between objects, places, perhaps even times, separated by the vast gulfs of space. That's how Dantioch explains this machine. And it's basically that like you can't just say, send me here, machine. You have to like will it to work. And like sort of empathic thing. Alien technology, who knows? Maybe if it was an Eldar thing, maybe Eldar could just do that. If it was Necron, maybe they could do that. Now I don't know if Necrons feel empathy anymore, but after that whole biotransference thing. So he keeps it working though. And then eventually somebody else shows up named Alexis Polux. Alexis Polux, I have a picture of him here. He's just mini, really. He is a Imperial Fist. Now, usually Imperial Fist and Iron Warriors do not get along. But these guys have no reason not to, right? They don't know really of the greater heresy here. And they work together because Dantioch says it is a poor strategy to rely only on one mind. Basically, we should both be working together and figuring this machine out because, we both can bring something different to the table. So he kind of teaches Pollux how to use the device and basically what he's learned from it. And Pollux is like, let me try it. And he does. And he tries to reach out towards Dorn, roll the Dorn all the way on Terra.
Mm-hmm.
The mountain shakes, and he can see Dorn, like the mountain, this whole machine starts working. He sees Dorn there doing what he does. He's consulting his charts, doing his works, and Dantioch is watching him do this, but he can't see what Pollux is seeing because the empathy machine makes you see what you want to see. So for Dantioch, he doesn't have the same feeling about Dorn that Pollux does because Pollux is Imperial Fist and that's Dorn's guys.
Right.
And eventually the vision fades away because it just can't maintain that for too long. And Dantioch says, perhaps you did see him. And then Pollux says, perhaps I did not. Because he's like, I don't, because this is nanotechnology, I don't really know what's going on. Like, maybe I did see him, or maybe it's like some type of weird illusion. If you didn't see it, how am I sure that's what I saw?
Right. Feels very like X-Men Cerebro kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. That kind of psychic.
Put on the helmet and
Yeah. Yeah.
So exactly, like that's what Polux is thinking. Is like maybe he just kind of pulled something out of my mind to show me like a vision of what I want to see. It probably wasn't even real. And Dantioch's like, maybe I don't know. Right? We don't know because something is weird. But he says, now we gotta be careful though because when you did that, it may kind of cause a little rumble. So maybe don't push it that far out anymore, like back to Terra. So basically, Dantioch tells Pollux, well, describe what you saw. He says, I saw this roll of Dorn. He says, okay, so he draws a picture of him. Because that's what Dantioch does. He's going to be an artist in this time. Because, believe it or not, Space Marines, not a lot of them, but a good amount of them are poets, artists. They make songs. Like Emperor's Children, a lot of them are artists. They like making poetry, like doing art and sculptures and all kinds of stuff. Obviously, the heresy made things a little weird, but they're not all just killing machines. World Eaters maybe, but even World Eaters, some of them liked art in some way, mostly a violent way, but so this isn't weird for him to be an artist.
Right. Okay.
But Sotha, the planet itself, is a very just green planet. Forests, swamps, peat bogs, really European almost. You have all different biomes here. But they're, in this giant mountain where this beacon is inside. And it's also a part of the 500 worlds of Ultramar. Now it's kind of way out there, but it's one of them. Like we said last time, like Hawaii. And there's a guy there, this Ultramarine named Adalis, whatever his name is. And he's kind of just hanging out and kind of bored because nothing really happens here. But what they also do here is they make Space Marines here too, like we just talked about with Obadeiis, right? That kid who's getting those weird feelings.
Right. So with that, are they, since this is kind of Ultramar, which is where all the Ultramarines are they only making Ultramarines, or does it depend? Or
usually they may make for other places. Like they make some people here, but usually you would keep it in your own zone just because the gene seed, for one, and two, it's just like the culture's already there. So probably hard to make a White Scar and Ultramar because the White Scar's culture is usually related to their planets. So you kind of want to, you usually keep it now. So you probably wouldn't make Iron Warriors here.
Right.
It's just not really their type of thing, or Word Bearers, or
Mm.
even Salamanders, maybe not.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of the Ultramarines, and that's why there's so many Ultramarines is that there's 500 worlds to pick from. So there's even if you have, let's say, 1,000 per world, that's 5,000 Space Marines right there, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's probably more than 1,000.
Yeah.
So they train these people here, these kids here called scouts, neophytes, and adepts and aspirants. They're, like I said before, being rebuilt into Space Marines, and Obadeiis is one of them. And he has a friend named Tebekai, who is just one of those kids that talks a lot. And the recruiter asks Obadeiis whether or not he's afraid to die. And he says, "Never. I fear only failure." Right, and that's the classic. You can't, you're trying to be a Space Marine.
Yeah.
But the problem is, he does have a fear, right, of the Pharos. And he has visions sometimes. And like one of the visions he had was the arrival of Sanguinius with the Blood Angels before it even happened, before they even showed up there. So it's like a weird, he's getting something going on.
Yeah.
And they did an investigation on him, and they're like, yeah, no, nothing weird here. But then also Adelus, this name's tricky. It's Adallus. Adalus?
Sure.
Adalus, whatever. Adalus. He also had a dream of Curze attacking McCrag at 1.2. So some people are just being around this thing for too long, start getting weird visions and stuff, and they don't know why. So there's also other people here too, called just the Sothan First Auxilia, which are just regular people, regular army people, just with las guns and helmets. Just do your job, right? I'm doing my part, Starship Troopers. And there's a guy there named Sergeant Maricus Geraldus, and he is really loving that he's got stationed here because he's kind of not a bad guy, but he's a bit of a, I don't say a pirate, but he's pirate-like, like a kind of a rogue-like guy.
Okay.
A little rough type guy. And he's on this, like, I won't say a paradise planet, but it's a very nice, peaceful planet. And he's like, man, I could stay here forever. It's kind of like even with Gilliman. When Gilliman was here, he's like, oh, if only I could just stay here and just farm forever.
Yeah.
So eventually, this guy, the Obadeiis gets a vision of a guy named Gendor Scribok. And here is a picture of that guy. He's a Night Lord. And we never talk much about Night Lords. We talk about Curze, but Night Lords as a whole are the 8th Legion, which is Curze guys. And Gendor Scribok has the name of the Painted Count. And he has been sitting in a dead Mechanicum relay station at the edge of the system for months, just waiting. In like in the cold and dark, like as Night Lords do. And the problem is they have nowhere to go because they're stuck here. And they're running out of like supplies, and they're just kind of starving. I know Space Marines don't really starve, but they can. It just takes time.
Okay.
Like obviously it's been months, and they're starting to be like, man, I've been sitting here for a while. Regular humans would have been dead by now, obviously. So, because they were like, no, basically the promise was Night Lords, we're gonna go there, we're gonna start to kill the false emperor, and these guys are sitting in that station like, so what are we doing that? Kind of just hanging out, and kind of the thought with Gendor Scribok is he imagined himself a king worshipped by a fearful populace. Like he wants to be not a planetary governor because those are more human, but like a warlord on a planet that is like the king of the world.
Right.
Basically somebody that Angron would hate, but
Yeah.
And he is sitting with that thought. He's like, all right, once we get out of this station, oh man, I'm gonna be out there just killing, skinning, doing the things I like to do. He starts thinking about it more and more. And he's like, I have an idea. Let's go attack Sotha. Maybe there's something over there we can just kind of have a little fun, But he has no idea what's over there. He just sees a planet that has people on it.
Right.
So Curze is not with them right now. After, like, when he got captured, and some other guys got captured, remember, by the line on his ship, that was kind of took him out of the equation. Then he did the stuff on McCrag and all that other stuff. But he wasn't leading Night Lords when he was doing that. So a guy that did take over was called Krukesh the Pale. Do I have a picture of Krukesh? I do not. But There's another Night Lord's picture, kind of what they got going. He's a little face on his leg there.
Mhm.
Real nasty guys.
Yeah.
So Crew Crash the Pale is kind of leading in place of Curze. And the assault on Sotha is actually Crew Crash's order and Scribebox's plan. So Scribebox said, I have an idea to have a little fun.
Mhm.
And the Crew Crash says, all right, let's do it. So, and these guys are getting ready to move out. So what Scribebox plans to do is he kind of positions a dead Night Lord ship called the Nikton. Nikton. These words are killing me. But he basically, it's this ship that was all beaten up at Thermos or Thramis. It just floats around, right? And it looks all like dead. So nobody's gonna think anything of it. Oh, just space junk.
Mhm.
And basically, direct collision course with Sotha. And we've seen this before, right? With the moon on Calth.
Yes.
Now, this isn't that. They're not doing that strategy again because what happens is Ultramarine sent a small little ship called the Probity to investigate because, I mean, ship's kind of just sailing right towards you. Might as well check it out. And Lethicus is like, they're probably trying to do that trick again. I mean, you're going to fall for it. And his second in command, Caius, agrees. And he says, yeah, but we're still going to investigate. That's what we do. So in they go. So they send the ship floating over, and the Night Lords are waiting at that relay station, and they're in a vacuum. So this space station has like no air or anything. Like a human would be here, they just die. But since they have their suits on, their space marine suits, they kind of stay in their own pressurized, I guess, spacesuit basically with a little oxygen thing. It's space tech, magic, sci-fi, whatever.
Yeah.
And the suits are powered down so they don't make any like sounds or anything. So there's about 32 of them, and their Skyrock is just listening on the radio, waiting for them to fall for the trap of that ship. And all of a sudden, they rescue the ship, and they're like, "Oh, it's just whatever." Then all of a sudden, they spring the trap. So Kai ends up getting stabbed, and the Night Lords, basically do what they do best: fighting in the dark, killing them, and just moving through piece by piece.
Mhm.
And the Probri's crew are trying to basically, we just need to self-destruct the ship so they can't take it, because that would be bad. And we also need to warn Sotha before it's too late. But it is too late. Night Lords have already ripped out the control mechanism, and the last transmission is basically reactor death for the self-destruct countdown.
Mhm.
But nothing happened because the Night Lords stopped that from happening.
Mhm.
So Kai eventually makes his way to the bridge, and the Night Lords are moving through, and he's fighting them, and he gets hit by a power axe that basically drops down to one knee. And as the ship's crew are dying around him, and the self-destruct countdown runs to silence. And he basically asks the Night Lord a question. He says, "Why did you turn?" The Night Lord says, "We will not be slaves to a liar." Okay. "Your kind killed the man who made us. No freedom is worth that," says Caius. "And we have not killed him yet," says the Night Lord's warrior. Basically, talking about Gilliman.
Mhm.
Oh, no, Gilliman, sorry, the Emperor.
Okay.
And he laughs, and then Caius stares at him and says, "The Emperor lives?" And the Night Lord says, "Yeah, he's still alive." Because they all think, the Warp Storm and all that stuff, and then Imperium Secundus are like, "Emperor's probably dead, we gotta do our own thing."
Right.
So the Night Lord's like, "No, he's still alive over there." And Kai says, "You think you will ever be free? You cannot win. You have become monsters." And the Night Lord says, "We always were." Like, yeah, what was your question?
Well, I was gonna say, and you kind of answered. I was gonna ask because it sounded like they were talking about Gilman and Sanguinius, kind of like the Second Empire. But if they're talking about the Emperor, then
Yes.
never mind. Because I was like, they know that the Emperor's alive, right? And then
Yes.
you answered that too. But yeah.
Yeah, these guys did. So, but unfortunately, nobody's gonna pass on the information because Kaius gets killed,
Mhm.
and Skywalk is doing what he does, and he finds this other guy, Lethicus, on the floor, basically naked. Not naked. He stripped his armor off. He's not like just hanging out, totally naked. But this other guy, Curze, says, "I want to kill him. I want to do, do what we do. I want to do the skin on the armor and all that stuff like we do." And Skywalk just takes up a pistol and shoots him in the head. And then he looks at this other guy and says, "I really like the effect. Do not tempt me to overuse it or I may grow bored." Basically, what he reveals is that these are pain spikes that they have installed in their armor. And it's a control mechanism. So it's not like the butcher's nails necessarily, where it makes you aggressive and fight.
Mhm.
These are more like spikes that if you do something I don't like, I'm basically hitting this switch, and he's like, you just get shocked and you can't move. So he turns it on to Kellinkir because Kellinkir's going to give him a hard time, and so flip that switch, and that's what he said. I like that way that like what that does to you. Maybe I'll keep doing it. Don't make me overuse that. So it's basically a control thing for them.
So who is the guy who's leading the Night Lord style? That's the one who has control of that, or
yes,
okay.
Well, Scribach does. Yes,
Okay.
Not Pale Count, Pain Count.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he installed these pain spikes, and he flips the switch on, basically to torture this guy. Even though it's his own guy, that's what Night Lords do. They're just real. I mean, these guys are all criminals, basically. Like on their planet, the people who become Space Marines are usually from criminal backgrounds.
Right.
So they're already a little messed up in the head. And you make them into Space Marines, it's like, oh, you're just turning that to 11,
Yeah.
So there's no brotherhood here. They just do whatever they want.
Right. And so these spikes are not a way of controlling, it's just a way of like
Torturing
them?
Yeah,
Okay.
like it's controlling in a way of like, if you act out, I'm going to hit you with this pain spike.
Yeah.
But no, it's not like the Butcher stands where it's like, oh, this makes you like more aggressive. It literally, like, if you hit this switch while somebody's fighting, they're going to die then because they're stunned,
Yeah.
So it's like that.
Would Curze usually have control of that, or
it seems like a newer invention.
okay?
Because Curze would just kill you. I mean, I don't think he's really. I mean, he likes torturing, but at a certain point, he's just like, well, I'm just gonna stab you or peel you up like an orange, whatever he wants to do.
Okay.
These are definitely a newer thing, a newer invention.
Yeah.
So Skyrock ends up getting a visitor, and there is this guy named Baranon who is a psyker, and despite Nikea, he's still doing what he does because nobody even follows. It's such a fake rule. It's like speeding, right? You can't go the speed limit. Well, everybody does. So at a certain point, it is what it is.
Yeah. Are Space Wolves like the only ones that really fall out?
But even they don't, because they have like runic warriors that are basically using psych for energy. It's just differently manifested than like an actual spellcaster.
Okay.
So yeah, nobody does. I mean, the only people maybe that kind of do it are world eaters, but also they just don't even think about it. You know what I mean? They just find sorcery distasteful.
Yeah.
So Baronin is unhappy. He keeps having these visions and these prophecies where he keeps dying and he sees like these just real nasty things happening. And one night, Skrybok hears a little laugh, but it's not a human laugh. And he's like, what is this? Who's laughing at me? And he sees his librarians in the room. Except it's not Baranon. It is, his eyes are red and gold. And this voice coming from him is not Baranon's voice. It's a demon speaking through Baranon. Basically, it's possessed him. And it says, offers him alliance. It says, let me through, and I will give you information, basically a path out of the disaster that Krukesh is steering you towards. And it says, Curze is on McCrag. And Krukesh will have, if he does what he does, he's going to get him killed within 4 days. And like, you need to destroy Pharos. That beacon needs to be destroyed. And now these Night Lords didn't know about the beacon, but this demon does, because demons just know everything somehow. And or they can take the weapon as well and use it for their own services. Because I mean, you think about that Pharos beacon is keeping that side of the universe running. You take that out, I mean, it's over, right? You can't get things moving around like you used to. So, and they basically Scribe asks him, he says, well, what do you want? And he says, I desire ingress, whatever that means. And Scribe hesitates. He's like, look, I may be evil, but I don't know about you demons. So he says, I don't know if I'm going to trust you. And at this point, Baranon's body's kind of giving away because demon possession is not always pretty. So he's kind of skin's falling off type stuff. So Scribe's like, yeah, all right. It sounds good to me. And then he's like, all right, awesome. And the demon's like, cool. And then Baranon just explodes and gore flies out everywhere. And from the blood pool, a sword rises clean. Basically a meter and a half of dark steel, no markings, just hovering the sword in the air like a item drop. Like Baranon just dropped his gear on the ground and he has a legendary sword. And Scribok is reaching towards. He's like, "Ooh!" He's like, "Wait a minute." He's like 2 centimeters away from gravity. He's like, wait a minute, and he hears this whispering, and it says he would never ever bear that sword. So he takes the sword, but he locks it away in the trophy cabinet. He's like playing using that. So it's funny to me that it's like, yeah, do your demon deal. Okay, use this sword. Nah, I'm gonna do it out. Yeah, nah, I'm doing my own thing. So he basically, moves on from that, but now he has information, and that's really what he wanted to begin with. That Curze is on McCrag, and that if we do Krukesh's plan, he's going to die. And also we need to take that lighthouse out. So the Night Lords land on Sotha, and they are just sieging it, just war of attrition. and they're working the way that Night Lords do. Because most, like, let's say Iron Warriors, they fight by just throwing themselves at you until you just die. Same thing, attrition. But Night Lords are like hanging people up in like trees, skinning faces. It's just a brutality that these people are definitely not used to. So, and it's just they're burning through cities, shooting bolters at. I mean, these are regular humans, mind you. I mean, there's some Space Marines there, but a lot of them are just regular farmer humans. They have no plan or way to deal with this. Like even like the Imperial auxiliary that are there to help are shooting like las rifles, which are basically just really hot lasers, which could kill a Space Marine if enough shoot them. But I don't know, man. Night Lord, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna end well. I mean, that guy has skin on his leg and hands on his arms, on his shoulder. Like that guy comes at me, I want to kill myself. You know what I mean? Like there's just nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
So this guy, Lieutenant Vitellius, basically says this isn't conquest, this is destruction. So like Night Lords aren't gonna like, oh, we need to hold the beacon. He's like, no, we're just gonna just blow up this planet. We're gonna make an example out of you.
Mhm.
And they are just it's not pretty. So the scouts are getting caught in these young boys, these aspirants, and they're trying to do it the best they can, but they're just not quite at that level. And this guy, Sergeant Arcus, gets shot down, and he basically has a hole in the size of a fist, but he's alive. And Obadeiis is part of that squad, and he's getting really now that fear started to creep in. He doesn't have that Space Marine no fear yet. And basically what happens is he says, I'm in charge until he recovers, referring to the sergeant that is bleeding out but not dead yet. And it's funny, he says until he recovers, he's really doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Because I don't think he will.
Yeah.
If you got a fist-sized hole in you, I don't think not looking good for you. So Obadiah says, if you pass this test, you have proven yourselves. You will be legionaries, Astartes entirely, forged in the crucibles of war. Not many recruits can claim that. He basically says this other guys, like, if we can push back these Night Lords, like we would be the coolest aspirants ever, you know? Mm-hmm. Like we killed Space Marines before we were Space Marines type stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So he kind of rallies his guys together. These teenagers are trying to fight demigods. We'll see how that goes. So Captain Attalus is fighting up top in orbit, and eventually the Night Lords catch up to him and trap him on the command deck, and they blast down this door. They have a dreadnought, and the dreadnought's fighting, or the Attalus has a dreadnought, and there are two Night Lords there named Kellenkir and Kellen Dvar, and he's fighting them, and it gets to a point where the beaten captain says he deserves a clean death, and Skrybok denies it. He says, not this one. He had his chance. Kellenkir, do with him as you will, but remember you owe me twice, once for your life and once for his death. Because Kellenkir is getting real smooshed up here. You know, it's looking bad, but they end up winning. And Atlas is watching the Night Lords do what they do best, right? The skinning and the flaying and all that type of stuff. And they don't guys, look away from it. Don't do that. That's propaganda. You know, they're trying to break you mentally. And he says, they call themselves the Lords of the Night. We shall cast them into it. You know, so he's trying to build up his guys. It's not looking good. So eventually they capture up to Attalus and take him away. And they basically peel off his armor. And it says, in the end, Attalus' death was neither quick nor heroic. So I don't necessarily know if you know what happens to him, but I'm going to tell you, it's probably not pretty. Yeah. And they also capture Sergeant Maricus Geraldus, who we talked about as a human sergeant. And they, you know, like I've said a few times now, they do what they do. And they torture him because he has information. And he's keeping quiet, though. He's like, I can tell you nothing. And it's basically buying the time that Ultramarines need to kind of build a plan. Mm-hmm. And he's trying his best to not squeal. And it is they end up killing him, right? He just obviously, because that's why wouldn't they? Yeah. And another guy, Arcus, dies before he even gets to the top of the mountain, right? It's falling apart. So back down on the surface, Skrybok is, you know, has a plan, and he with that sword he gives it to Kellenkir. And he doesn't Kellenkir doesn't know what this sword is. He just said, oh, cool, fancy new sword. But he doesn't know the old demon thing going on there. So basically what it is he's kind of solving two problems at once here. One, you have an unstable subordinate, and two, the demon gets to possess somebody else that's not me. Right. So Kellenkir takes a sword, and he's like, wow, this is incredible. I can kill so many people with this. But then, at that point, already starts to seep in, right? How many times have we seen this with a sword, right? The layer blade, the sword on, I don't know, some other thing. I can't remember, but yeah. So,
a couple demon weapons out there.
right. It's always bad news. If a demon is in a weapon, you just probably shouldn't pick it up. So, back on McCrag, Sanguinius is there, and he's kind of flying around because he has wings, right, as we talked about. And because he's been having this vision for months now, same one over and over and over, but it's getting more and more clear as he keeps having it. And he basically sees Horus juiced up, triumphant over Sanguinius' dead body. And he's like, into a point, he's like, I don't think it's a dream. I think this might happen to me. And then eventually, this guy, Ascalon, calls him and says, come down here, I gotta tell you something. And Sanguinius enters the throne room, and it looks weird, right? The candelabra is out in the room, so it's dark in here. And the shadows seem weird. There's this weird smell in the air, and he's like moving around the room. Sanguinius is like, there's somebody in here. Eventually, he finds something that looks like a column, and he reaches out and touches it, and it collapses. And he hears a voice and says, I'm behind you, Sanguinius. And then you see Conrad Curze appears. He's back. And he turns and looks there, and he sees Ascalon in his throne, dead. Because Curze killed him, right? And used him as basically a trap. And Conrad Curze says, Ave Imperator, right? Hail the Emperor. So Sanguinius draws his sword out and goes to face him. And Curze now is in his armor. So he's a little more dangerous now, right? Because most of the time we've seen him when he was on McCrack, he was kind of mostly naked, moving with just his claws. But now he's got this armor on. And it's real nasty armor. It's covered in like dried blood and gore and dust and dirt and grime. Because, of course, right? Look, if you can smell bad, that's another step you have on your opponent, right? It's like what some wrestlers would do, like Olympic wrestlers. Like they wouldn't shower because like the smell would make you. It's just like, all right, man, come on now. You have some shame.
Yeah.
So Conrad Curze starts talking. He says, basically, oh, sorry, Ascalon is not dead, but he's not looking well.
Okay.
And Curze does a little money thing with the fingers, right? And he says, I want insurance, nothing more. If you're nice, I'll let you have him back. And Sanguinius says, again, I try freak, and he goes to attack him. Because Sanguinius is probably faster than Curze. I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, he's faster, he's stronger, because like, man, it's whatever the writer wants, and you can't really power scale this stuff. But anyways, Sanguinius moves to attack him. But the thing is, Sanguinius and Curze are both seers, right? They can both see in the future. And when they're fighting, Sanguinius starts having visions and sees like, oh, Curze jumping from the throne, and then he killing Sanguinius, and then Sanguinius flying up, and then Curze striking him down, cutting his head off. Basically, he's seeing all these different ways he could die if he doesn't do the right thing. It's what's that from? Did you ever watch Naruto?
Not much.
Okay, well, there's a guy named Itachi, right? Sasuke's brother, and he's fighting the snake guy. I can't remember his name, not Orochimaru, but another snake guy with the circle glasses. And there's a thing called, I think it's Genjutsu or something like that. Basically seals him in this illusion that he has to keep fighting over and over and over again until he like does something to break the illusion. He traps this guy in there, and the guy keeps dying until he can figure out how to win the fight. So any viewers that know what I'm talking about is basically that. He keeps having this vision of all the different ways he could die, but he's like trying not to do those things.
Okay. Or like the Doctor Strange times.
Right. Or Mama.
Yeah.
But the problem is, so is Curze. Curze sees all the different ways he could die if he doesn't do something right. So they're like fighting each other in two different ways here. So every fight, I mean, every attack is parried, every opening is closed. It's just, the guys are so evenly matched because, I mean, they have foresight, right? There's nothing, they don't know. Everybody know, it's playing chess, or actually better examples like Yu-Gi-Oh with his eye, where you can see your hand. But it's two Pegasus. So they're both seeing their hands, and they're both like, well, he's going to pick that card. Well, if I pick this card, well, wait, then you pick this card. So it's this long fight of nothing, basically. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's perfectly matched fight.
Yeah.
And eventually, they both just stop fighting for a moment because they realize, okay, this is not going anywhere. And Curze tells me, he's like, look, you said this, you have a small taste of what I deal with every day. Every single moment is even before it occurs. Basically, there are no surprises in my life. I see everything that happens. And he basically comes to the point, he says, I didn't come here to kill you. I came here to talk. And, which is surprising, that Curze wants to talk about anything besides killing. And Sanguinius tells Curze that he knows that the Lightlords are attacking the Pharos world. And Conrad actually doesn't know that. Curze is like, my sons, really? How very interesting. Because he didn't know. He abandoned them, basically. He's, I don't care about you guys. I thought you're I left you alone to die out there. What do I care?
Yeah.
So he has been on McCrag, right? That we talked about in the last episode. And he's just been hiding around different circles, not really killing anymore because it's like obviously going to give him up. So he's just been kind of gathering information. And the lion doesn't know that either because the lion's trying to get Curze too. But he thought Curze left. He's not, he's still there. So now, basically, Curze lays out his case and says each Primarch was to cast to a world that suited his character perfectly. Basically, characters that our father engineered. And that we can both see the future, so surely the Emperor could too. Which means when we got scattered as babies, that couldn't have been chance. Like he would have known that was going to happen. The Emperor planned it. He basically made each one of us with a specific purpose. And Curze says, if I didn't choose to become a monster, I was built into one. I am a monster because that is all I can be, and you are an angel likewise. And Sanguinius says, you had a choice, Curze. Father only made us. He did not shape us. Nurture versus nature, right?
Right.
And Curze kind of gets a little mad here. He says, I was made to be thus. Nothing could change it. I know because I tried. I did. And he starts getting real emotional because he's like, look, man, you don't understand. You know, my twisted mind. I'm the Joker, baby. You know?
This and like the last episode we talked about Curze, and like I can only imagine in like the Discord mod voice.
Right. I'm actually a monster. You have no idea the true darkness of my mind. Like, but to be fair, it's like I mean, having visions constantly does suck, especially once you see your own death. It's probably like at a certain while you're probably gonna be like, yeah, I don't really like being alive anymore.
Yeah, and I can see kind of what he's saying. Like, if the Emperor does have foresight, which I assume he does in some way,
yeah.
And they kind of knew where they got scattered, and like it's like Angron getting scattered on the world with the butcher's nose. Like he couldn't really help that, and like
yeah, he can't take him out either.
Yeah, and Curze got deposited in the criminal world, or whatever. So it's like shocker how he turned out, right? It's like
I grew up around criminals. I have visions of me dying. I don't know what you expected to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas Sanguinius, the angel's like, I don't know. Maybe you stop being a big baby about it. But to be fair, Sanguinius landed on a death world too. Ball was a death world. I mean, it was like the evil desert, super heated radiation world.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and he also has visions. So Sanguinius points like, well, to be fair, I'm not a bad guy. So all of a sudden, they start hammering on the doors. The sanguinary guard are trying to break in, and Curze is like, well, I guess I'm running out of time. So he picks up Escallion and says, try to kill, you should kill him. Kill Escallion to prove your point. And he says, let it be a test. And basically, Sanguinius goes to attack, stops the blade stops just like a hair away from the Curze's head. He stops for a moment. He steps back, he sees the sword and says, letting you live is punishment enough. Brutal. And then Curze says, do not lie to me. Because man, Curze wants to die so badly. But he's not going to just let you kill him, right? And he's like, because really what it is Curze has had a vision of himself dying. I think we talked about it last episode about one of the Emperor's assassins. Doesn't know when, he doesn't know however, but he knows that is how he dies. But he really wants it not to be that way. So if Sanguinius killed him here, he's basically saying, I want to prove that the future can be changed. Like, you prove me wrong, right? Prove my philosophy wrong. And then Sanguinius says, there's always hope, brother, even for you. And then he says, I will not cast myself into despair. That is a true difference between you and me. I will not abandon our father's dream. Basically, like, look, man, you're crazy, but that's a choice. So Curze is getting a little, he's like, all right, I guess you're not understanding what I'm saying here. So all of a sudden he cuts off Ascalion's arm and then throws him down. And Sanguinius, unfortunately, starts to get a little hungry. That thirst. So, that bleeding. Hold on, wait a minute. And he's like, I gotta let me repress that because he's just doing all that fighting. Sanguinius got that red thirst too, so it starts to build up. And he's trying to hold himself back, and he dives towards Escallion. And you're like, oh, he's gonna munch into him? Nope, he doesn't. He just carries him up and circles back to the fortress, puts him away, and comes back to the throne. And by the time he does, Curze is gone. And Guilliman is now back to what Guilliman is doing. He's going to his fleet to go protect Sotha. So you probably wait. Why isn't Guilliman helping Sanguinius? Because he's busy getting his guys ready.
Right.
So Sanguinius is just sitting in the throne room, kind of alone, and he says to nobody, too many times. Basically, that's kind of a line that he's responding to when Guilliman says to him, "Brother, when have you ever known me to be reckless?" Too many times. So back on Sotha, some Night Lords Terminators start to show up. And I don't have any pictures of Night Lords Terminators, but Terminators are, I mean, like the name implies, bad news. They can teleport. Their armor is basically impenetrable. You're not getting through it. And they're super heavy soldiers. Think of it like juggernauts from Call of Duty, right?
Mm-hmm.
That EOD suit on, like a bulletproof warrior, right?
Right.
So imagine that times 10, right? These guys. And they can teleport. So these guys show up and they start killing people, and eventually they get to Dantioch and they take him prisoner. And the commander introduces himself. He says, I am Krukash the Pale, Chiroptera of the 8th Legion and champion of the war against the false emperor. I claim this facility in the name of Horus, rightful ruler of mankind. And Dantioch replies with, I do not recognize Horus as my master. And they start interrogating Dantioch, right? They kind of break him down and they torture all the different members of this garrison one by one to try to get to Dantioch. Like, tell me what happens when I kill this first. He says, never. They kill the guy's face off. He's like, all right, whatever. Ain't gonna get me. So they just keep killing all these guys, and Dantioch is watching, and he just says, kill them all if you wish, kill me. We die knowing we serve the truth and man who would save the human race. You demonstrate your weakness, siding with the War Master for personal gain. Where is your honor? Basically, he's like, that's weak. That's weak right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's weakness. I wouldn't do it. A guy like me, I wouldn't do it. So all of a sudden, the Pharos activates on its own, which is weird because there's nobody around it. Nobody's activating it, And because Krukash wanted to see the market square of Scythopolis. And the machine's like, okay, I got you. Let me put that up for you. And Krukash is like, wow, that's incredible. You did that for me, Dantioch? And Dantioch says, no, I did not. But what's so crazy about that vision is that when he does this, when Krukash says he can reach out and actually feel this guy Savitar's flesh, like he is more than just, when Dantioch talked to Gilliman, he said, look, I'm just a vision. He just reached through him and said nothing. Mm-hmm. But when he's using this time, he's actually reaching and he can actually touch this guy Savitar, which is, I think he's the guy who got arrested when the Night Lords got arrested on I don't know if he's on the Lion ship or he's on McCrag right now. So he can reach out and touch him. And he's like, oh, wait a minute, the Pharos can also teleport too. Interesting. That's very interesting and very helpful to know. So they got Polux up on this torture cross, as they do. And Dantioch basically says, actually, no, I did activate it. That was me. I just wanted to get you, leave me alone. Because he can't let them know how it works.
Right.
And eventually, so now going back to somebody we haven't talked about in a while. Well, I guess not somebody we haven't talked to in a while. I read the name wrong. This guy Corvo, not Corvus, Corax, Corvo, sorry. Mm. Then you didn't mean to get too excited. But this guy Corvo's fleet approaches, shows up, and blows up 2 Night Lord ships. And the rest of the fleet are like, oh, wow, we gotta get out of here. Mm. So the Loyalist fleet passes through and gets the Night Lords out of there. So far, so good. But the problem is this ship called the Glorious Nova has to slow down and get in position to drop 126 men into the forest to get them to help. But the problem is the Night Lords are regrouping right behind it, trying to all right, we're just gonna go around and loop back around and get you. Mm-hmm. So without somebody covering them, they're gonna get torn up.
Right.
And Corvo says it basically. He says, I'm going to die to get you guys here. Mm-hmm. And there's this Dark Angels captain in the room named Alceus. And Dark Angels they're all working together here, right? Blood Angels, Dark Angels, and Ultramarines. And he says, I'm your equal in rank and of a different legion. You cannot order me, Captain. We of the first will fight when we see fit. I see fit to do so now. So basically, Dark Angel's telling him, look, man, I'm not going down there until, I want to. Mm. And Corvo says, well, you have my thanks. So they let Corvo go down, and the Dark Angels are basically using his ship to fight those Night Lords. And eventually, the Night Lord ships, it's not really a fair fight here. He sees in the air above him this big bright light explosion and then darkness again. Alceus is dead. The Watcher is gone. The ship is called the Watcher as well. And Corvo says, we owe the First Legion a debt of honor. Let the Nova Company ever remember it. So they're kind of holding that with them as they move on. So eventually, Corvo's guys show up to inside the mountain. And they're not in the machine yet because it's a pretty big mountain still, so they got to get through these tunnels. 126 of them moving towards these tunnels. And a fight breaks out. Right, these Night Lords are in there, and these Ultramarines are fighting them. And Kellinkir drops down to fight Corvo personally. And all of a sudden, this bright light hits the room as they duel. And in the light, Kellenvar sees what his brothers become. Basically, he's seeing that Kellinkir is now possessed by this demon. He's like seeing this like second form under him, and the shadow went away, or something like that. And it is kind of almost possessing him completely, almost taking over his body, kind of like he did with, I forget the guy's name, but the
Samus?
no, the psycho we were just talking about at the beginning, Barabos or Banavos or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Kind of similar thing there. It was kind of possessing him almost completely.
Yeah.
Or kind of similar to like Argel, Tall, and his demon, except they kind of had an agreement. But this one is based is like there's no agreement here. I'm going to possess you.
Yeah.
So Kellinkir is moving quick, and he's just, I mean, it's similar to Samus with Xavier Jubal, that because he's getting this like enhanced movement, enhanced strength as well, that demon possessed strength. So he's just fighting Corvo, and Corvo can't keep up. I mean, this demon possessed guy is too much. And the demon blade gets raised up to go down to stab to Corvo, but Kellenvar charges in and attacks Kellinkir because he's like, this isn't my brother, some demon. So he's trying to pull the sword away, and the demon is speaking through Kellinkir and floods his mind with these images. Basically, every atrocity that Kellinkir ever committed. So all to just basically keep Kellenvar alive. And then tells him basically he is the reason that Kellinkir became a monster. Every terrible thing that Kellinkir did, he did it for his weak little brother who needs protecting. And Kellenvar says, if not for me, he would be dead. He would have died on Nostromo. And Nostromo is the Night Lord's home planet.
Okay.
So, Kellenvar lifts up his axe and kills his brother. Basically cuts down through the power pack, down the neck, and Kellinkir's eyes clear for a moment. And then the demon kind of is like, oh, I don't want to be around that. So he steps out of the body, as they do. And then he looks up and he's like, why are you attacking me? And he says, we both died a long time ago. So the Corvo gets up and kills Kellenvar because he's like, well, you're Night Lord. I can't even, I don't care. Yeah. So they both die, right? Both these brothers die. And the demon sword is gone. Disappears. So back in the tuning chamber where Polux is getting tortured still. And they put the pain spikes on him too now. He's getting pain spiked. So it's just brutal stuff. So Krukesh uses the Pharos to contact the flagship, the Nightfall. And it's basically, trying to tell them from basically to command them by like an apparition.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm not going to look for Curze, and I'm not going to rescue Sevatar. And he says, I have the most powerful artifact in the Imperium Secundus. And he basically says, pick me up and bring me home. Says, and if it does not, Captain Polux will suffer for it. So he basically tells Dantioch, focus the beam on the Nightfall to teleport us, or to teleport all these Night Lords onto the ship so we can come in with a full force. And Dantioch says, yeah, sure, you got it. Let me just kind of do it real quick, So we start thinking about it, taking his time. And he says, you just have to stand right there, though, to do it. And he says, well, this is how it goes. He says, run that platform right there. And obviously, he's lying. So Krukesh is like, yeah, I don't believe you, though. So he starts hitting him and torturing him some more. And Alex Pollock says, I will kill you all. And Skyrock is like, as this light begins to hit the mountain, and it's beginning to build towards something. And then Skyrock says, no, stop him. Stop him. This is a trap. Wait a minute. Hold on. But too late. Dantioch basically drives the Pharos past the point of anything it was meant to do. Remember earlier we talked about Polux trying to talk to Dorn and basically overcharge the machine.
Yeah.
So Dantioch figured out how to do that, and he's like, I'm going to do it right now on this spot, overcharge this engine, and basically detonate on everybody. So it is going to basically tear everybody apart here down to the atoms.
Like the whole planet, or just
the mountain, basically. Okay. And it's going to kill him too, right? Everybody in this mountain is going to die.
Yeah.
So the energy start ripping them apart, and Alex Pollock is on his cross being like, Dantioch, stop, you're going to kill everybody. And Dantioch turns, breathing green fire, and he says to him, he looked in his friend's eye one final time and bowed his head. And he does it anyways. Drives the Pharos to his own destruction, and Krukesh is trying to fight in his Terminator plate, trying to run out. But this Terminator plate, I mean, it's like 4 tons of just steel. So he's stomping away, trying to get out. And he basically is pulled in this vortex, torn apart, and the mountain is basically collapsing on itself, and Skrybok dives into it. He dives in the explosion. He says, "Oh well, whatever." And then it says, "In a heartbeat, the light went out, and Dantioch drops to the floor, armor smoking." And I had this picture here, kind of what that looked like. He is, as the kids say, cooked, literally and figuratively. So he is not, basically ashen, and Alexis Polux basically goes to see him.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit earlier, there's a guy we talk about, Marcus Geraldus, and he is getting, he got tortured as well, and Corvo ended up finding him and had Marcus basically get him inside the mountain without being totally detected. And they basically sealed in. They said, when we get in there, seal in the mountain so nobody can get out except for us when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
So they do that, and he said, "Oh, well, when you're done, flee away, get away from the planet because whatever could happen here."
Right.
And Corvo says no. I mean, not Corvo. America says no, and he says, "This is about more than the end of the universe for us. This is our home." So I mean, to the Sothans, it's like, why? Like, we are not leaving our planet, right? This is our Earth, right? So you're not. He says, "I respect that. Fair enough." So Marcus, at one point, is beaten unconscious and, taken to Kellenbar, and they all get killed there, right? That's what happened about 30 minutes before Kellenbar and that whole thing with Kellenkier.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but it also bought the time that Corvo needed to get to those engines where they're getting detonated right now.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, after this whole explosion, the translocation blast basically killed every Night Lord in there, but 2 of them got out onto the deck of the Nightfall, right? Well, the rest did too, but they're all dead.
Yeah.
The other 2 survived. Skrybok and Krukesh made it out. But Krukesh is blind, burned, and his face is just covered in these, he has basically 3rd-degree burns. His face is just gone. His eyes melted out of his head. So Skrybok stands up. He's a little crispy, but he has his nice Terminator plate on, so he's a little healthier. And he looks around, and he says, Krukesh threw away any chance to rescue Sevatar, to find our Primarch, and he says he bent the power of the Sotha to his own ambition. And Krukesh is basically telling him, kill Skrybok, he's lying. And nobody moves, I don't know, what do we do? And then Skrybok picks up this pistol, and it says, there is but one law from Nostromo to cleave to, Krukesh the Pale. The strong shall prevail, and you are weak. Krukesh the Blind, Krukesh the Dead. And pops him right in the head. Mm-hmm. So, Painted Count is just killed the commander, and he says, give me a sword. He doesn't have a sword. The commander should have a sword. And he says, you have a sword right there. And he looks down, Skrybok, and he says, oh, interesting. I didn't see that sword there before. And it is the Demon Blade. He says, all right, well, I'll keep using it. Well, he doesn't want to keep, he says, well, I don't know, all right. Obviously I can't get rid of this thing. Because remember, he was the one who took it and tried to give it to the other guy and say, hey, Kellenkier, this is your problem now.
Right.
So after that guy dies, he comes back to him and he's like, well, all right, guess it's cool. All right. I guess let's keep handing it off. Hot potato here.
Yeah.
So Polux ends up getting to Dantioch as he's kind of dying out here, and he's holding him there. And I mean, Dantioch is blind as well. I mean, it's like basically they thought a nuclear blast.
Yeah.
And he's holding him, and Dantioch says, I never thought to call one such as you friend. And Polux says, you are my friend, Barabbas, and my teacher. It's kind of like the Lord of the Rings, right? You never thought I would die with an elf? He's like, what about a friend, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And Dantioch says he's dying. And Polux like, no, you'll be fine. You're a space marine. You can heal up. And Dantioch says, I saw such things in the light. This war is only the beginning of an end. And Dantioch says, again, follows up with, I am glad, Alexis. I am glad to have been. I am glad to have known you. It is something that friendship can exist in all this universe of terror and betrayal. I have no strength left. I have done my duty, and I am no longer ashamed. All hail the Emperor of mankind, still beloved by all. May his dream be saved, even if we cannot. And then he dies. And so it's kind of a good scene there, right? Because it's and you'll see it later on too, and we talked about before, I think you asked at one point, when they find somebody who is let's say, a word bearer. I think we talked about Unremembered Empire, the guy who snuck on the planet, that word bearer. Actually, I said in the last episode he died. He didn't die. He is in prison. Gilman did not kill him. Sorry about that. A little correction there. But yes, because that is important later on. Anyways. But somebody like him, they're probably thrown into prison just to make sure they're not doing something funny. But it does, it's still anybody's game here.
Right.
So this light flashes out from the Pharos. This nuclear explosion goes outward, and it just hits everything, right? It hits the Night Lord's fleet in orbit. It goes out into the warp itself, goes even brighter than the Astronomicon. I mean, it is I mean, basically a juiced up nuclear explosion. That is the size of the system. So during this moment, Gilliman fleet, when they was trying to get there, that was lost in the warp. Some of them got stuck in there. When they exploded, the navigators caught it and they locked on and they rove that right into the Sotha system. And Gilliman says, as he arrives finally, the Pharos remains in our hands, although I fear it will never function again. We have won this battle, but learned a valuable lesson. I will not be caught out like this again. So, like he does every time, he's like, oh, now that's theoretical and practical. Now we got to make plans for that. So they do their dead, they bury him, and they do all the honors. And are all, even the humans that aren't space Ultramarines get the same honors as well. They get the whole gimmick because they bought the time for them to do what they needed to do. Right. So now these Ultramarines of the 199th carry cross scythes on their armor as like a permanent mark. And actually, you'll see that way later on. I can't remember what they're called. I don't know if it's Nova Marines. I don't think so. But there is a Ultramarine chapter that has the scythes on their armor. But those might be the size of the Emperor. You know what? Actually, I don't know. I don't want to say anything and be wrong like it was about the Flesh Terrors, but there is definitely a chapter that carries the cross scythes. They're still around in like the 40k stuff. Okay. So Gilman says the men of the 190 Ajita a company will bear the cross scythes as a mark of respect and honor the common men of Sotha who aided them in the darkest of hours. And Gilman says to the neophytes in Obadeiis, who's still alive, he made it. He says, Neophyte Obadeiis, you are hereby promoted to rank of Legion Reconnaissance Sergeant, effective immediately. And Tebekai, remember his friend, he's trying hard to cheese. He's standing there in line like, oh, that's my guy right there. Getting promoted, nice. So when they come to carry out Dantioch's body, Polux stops him and says, no, none shall touch him. I will carry him, for he was my brother. So at the top of the mountain, they build a pyre, and Dantioch is laid out on the dried wood, and they didn't put his helmet back on, and Gilman asks him why. And Polux tells him it was a symbol of shame, and Dantioch no longer has anything to be ashamed of. Basically, that Iron Warriors, because like a lot of them you'll see, certain Space Marines will have a look, and Iron Warriors, like I showed you in that last picture, have that grill on their thing, right? They have a look, and for him that was like that, like how Night Lords have their winged helmets, Dark Angels also have like winged helmets, stuff like that. So for him, it was kind of shameful to wear the thing because Perturabo is kind of sucks. Right. So Gilman offers Pollux a torch, and Pollux gives it back, and he says, it would mean more if the mightiest of the Emperor's sons sent Barabbas on his way. So Gilman lights it. And the next part is, so passes Dantioch, hero of the Imperium. So, back to McCragg. Sanguinius eventually connects to Gilman through the damaged Pharos. It's basically, it's a very laggy picture now. It's not doing great. I mean, the machine is basically destroyed, but Polux is basically straining at this like backup to try to, like, let me just try my best to get you at least to talk to him. And Sanguinius tells him that Curze came here to talk, and he almost killed Azkaban and several of the guard in the process. And he issues a direct command to return to Crag immediately, find the lion first, and then bring him back. Because I don't know where the lion went. He's left. And Gilman says, all right, well, give us a week. Let me just set things on Sotha in order. And Sanguinius says, no. And the image wavers for a moment, and their eyes kind of just lock for just silence. And Gilman runs through every theoretical in his mind. Like, if I do no, what would happen? Like, okay, if I do this and this would happen, this would happen. And if he defies him right now, it's the collapse of the Imperium Secundus, right? Dissensions and all that stuff. And eventually he bows low, and it says, of course, my Lord Emperor, your will be done. Because Sanguinius is the Emperor, so you have to do what he says. And that's kind of what Gilman realizes, like, oh, wait a minute. You're not my brother anymore. I mean, you still are, but I have to do what you say. I can't just say no to you, and then we have a second horse heresy over on this side, too. So, it took a lot of will for him to do it, but he's like, I mean, I didn't really think about it when we were doing it with the whole party. That was cool, but now it's like, oh, actually, so Pollux is holding this image long enough for like one last exchange. And he says, I'm doing what I can, but I am not Dantioch, and the Pharos is not functioning as it did before. And then eventually it cuts out. And it says, no return, light shone in reply, in order to ever again. The Song of the Mountain was done, and night fell on Imperium Secundus for true. Yes, for true. So that's kind of where this ends, is that the Pharos is broken, and can't use that anymore. Unfortunately, the Warp Storm is still there, so uh-oh. But that light was pretty bright, so who knows who saw it. And now we got to figure out what the lion's doing, and Gilman has to listen to what Sanguinius says. But so some stuff happened here. I mean, I would say it was a filler episode. I would say this was filler because I think a lot of important stuff happens here. But yeah, any questions?
I guess I was thinking the Terminator armor or whatever it is that Night Lord specific or is that everybody?
Everybody can have Terminator armor. So
Okay.
let me pull up a picture of Terminator armor here. If it'll ever load. Okay. So Terminator armor is usually just like heavy duty armor or tactical dreadnought armor. So it kind of looks like that usually.
Okay.
Versus regular Space Marine doesn't look like that. Let me show you like let's see if I have a picture here of regular Space Marine. So like this is what like a regular Space Marine looks like, right? Just a big armor and such. We see here in the picture. But Terminator armor is like this super heavy protective plate that sometimes it's a teleporter and you just kind of like a cross examination of it. It's like that thick, right? It's like nothing's getting through that. And it is very slow and very cumbersome, but I mean, and it has built-in teleporters, but sometimes teleporters don't work, or either there's like a cooldown. It's various things.
Okay.
So that's kind of how Scribble got out, is because he's wearing a tank. Basically, he's a walking tank. So unlike the other guy who, got blinded and half his face melted, Kukesh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what they look like. The Saturnine ones are really cool looking. They just have massive shoulders. Let me see if there's a picture of the Saturnine. There you go. That's kind of like a video, but like that's a mod of Space Marine 2, but like where is it? Here we go. This like actually a Saturnine. Just massive shoulders, like a tiny little head. It's you're not stopping this thing. If this thing's coming towards you, it's probably over.
Yeah. Nice. And then pick up.
Yeah, that's one with the that's like a regular Space Marine against I can't remember what the Carcharodons. Now we have Dark Carcharodons. That's a way later in the future 40K thing, but you can just see the difference in size. It is not pretty.
Yeah.
So yes.
Gotcha. And then other one I had was, oh gosh, what's his name? Scrivok. Is he now the one that's kind of heading up the Night Lords now that he killed Kukesh? Okay.
So he's in charge now. Like he said, he's basically the strong rule of the weak type thing, and you're weak, so you're out of here. I'm taking over because Curze is still just not. He doesn't really care. He's like, you guys are stinky. I don't want anything to do with you. Yeah. So it's Scrivox guys moving out and doing whatever they're going to do next.
Gotcha. And then so I guess that leads me to know with like Curze, like just going, I don't really care about my Legion. Do we see that? Oh, I know we talked about it with Angron when he first got his Legion, but I guess it's kind of more time. But is that
we really haven't covered that much. I guess we could. Maybe I'll try to weave it into some other episodes. But it's mostly just like he just doesn't care about anything. Like he likes the Night Lords because they kind of have his same philosophy. But he doesn't see them as like his sons or having real allegiance to him. Like with Ultramarines, I mean, they love Gilliman, right? Blood Angels love Sanguinius. Even World Eaters like Angron, even though Angron is kind of indifferent about World Eaters until they put the nails in their head. And he's like, maybe you guys are getting it after all. So yeah, Curze is just kind of doing his own thing, kind of just like, oh, I'm kind of like, on my own. I don't need nobody to help me type stuff, which really he doesn't because he's pretty effective. But, it is what it is with him.
Okay.
So,
got it. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, if that's all, then I guess we'll wrap it up there. And, if you like this video, do all the stuff that you do when you like the video, subscribe, like, share with your friends, put it on your Facebook. I don't know. Put it on Twitter. Put it on Blue Sky. Put it on your LinkedIn profile. Put it on everything. Put it on your Tumblr. Anyways, if you got this far, put in the comments who your favorite Legion is. I don't know. Anyways, it's all engagement. Bye for now.